If you didn't catch Sophie Cunningham's response to everything going on, especially her tweets and retweets, let me break it down. First off, she didn't issue some formal PR statement or emotional apology. Instead, she posted a shrug emoji on Instagram and then went on to retweet a post celebrating that her jersey was sold out. What made it even more bold? That post she quote tweeted was the petition calling for her to be banned from the WNBA. Thousands of people had signed that thing, calling her a dirty player who needed to be removed from the league. But instead of backing down, she basically laughed in their faces. And somehow, it worked. She didn't get canceled. Her jersey actually outsold Caitlin Clark's at one point. It's wild. This is the story of how one player flipped the script, leaned into the hate, and became the unapologetic enforcer the league didn't even know it needed. Now let's talk about that game. Yesterday's matchup was crazy. But have y'all seen the petition? The whole thing blew up. The Dallas Wings fan page was even calling for the All-Star game to be taken out of Indiana, claiming it was a player safety issue. Someone replied like, "Don't worry, neither JC nor Marina is making the All-Star team. Players will be safe." They even joked that the only Wings player making the cut would be Paige Beckers. To really understand what happened, you have to know what the vibe was like in the arena that night. It wasn't just intense, it felt predatory. Every Fever game had turned into something bigger than basketball. It wasn't just about Caitlin Clark's insane talent. It was about how aggressively teams were coming after her. She's the league's golden goose, the face of its future, and yet she was getting hit like a piñata. Cheap shots, off-ball body checks, straight-up physical play that crossed the line. It was all fair game, apparently. And yeah, when you mix that kind of energy with rising stars, frustrated vets, and a whole lot of national attention, things are bound to explode. Before we even talk about Sophie Cunningham being an all-star this year, let's get one thing straight. She had to fight her way back into the starting lineup on what was, at the time, the worst team in the WNBA. So the idea that she's now in the center of all this? Hilarious. Absolutely flat-out hilarious. The most frustrating part? The refs, the officials just let it all happen. Their whistles, silent. Their eyes, apparently closed. Caitlin Clark was getting checked, bumped, shoved to the floor, and nobody was doing anything about it. The message was loud and clear. She was on her own. That silence from the refs didn't just frustrate fans, it was rattling people inside the Fever locker room too. And when it became clear the officials weren't going to step up, someone else had to. Enter Sophie Cunningham. Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is, and everybody wants a piece of her. Why? Because her jersey is now the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA. Sold out. That's right, her jersey outsold Caitlin Clark's. Think about that. Caitlin Clark, the most popular woman in WNBA history, just got surpassed by Sophie Cunningham. Why? Because Sophie stood up for Caitlin Clark. But before she became the enforcer, Sophie was a target too. The hits weren't just aimed at Clark, they were coming for the whole team. And Sophie took the brunt of it. It started subtly, with little cheap shots. One in particular, Marina Mabrey literally stuck her hand straight into Sophie's eye. No call, no stoppage, just play on. It was a blatant, painful move, a test of limits. And after that, the physicality escalated fast. So no, I'm not the only one feeling this way. I'm just saying what a lot of people are thinking. Sophie Cunningham stood on business. All these online petitions, these dumb fines, they don't matter. Like Rachel said, and like John Liquid Love pointed out, I'm not condoning violence, not at all. But what I am saying is that Sophie did what any real one would do. She responded like a human being. Because when an opposing player came at her full speed, shoulder lowered like a battering ram, Sophie Cunningham stood her ground and sent her flying. Stumbling backward, it wasn't a basketball move. It was a physical statement, meant to intimidate. And once again, the officials just stood there like statues. Blank faces, no whistle, nothing. Every no call was just more fuel on a fire that was already burning out of control. Sophie Cunningham was being manhandled, physically punished, with a level of disregard that bordered on outright negligence. And her breaking point? It was coming fast. Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of her. And her jersey? It's the #1 seller in the WNBA. Completely sold out. And why is that so significant? Because that jersey surpassed Caitlin Clark's. Yeah, Caitlin Clark, the most popular woman to ever play in the WNBA. And Sophie's jersey beat hers. Why? Because Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark. All game long, Sophie took the hits, the eye poke, the shoulder check. She absorbed it all, still trusting, hoping that the refs would eventually do their job and bring back some order. But that trust evaporated the longer she watched her teammates, and especially Caitlin Clark, the face of the league, get beat down with zero protection. And then something in her snapped. But it wasn't rage. It wasn't reckless. It was cold. It was calculated. She saw that the system had failed. And in that moment, she made a choice to deliver her own version of justice. Guess whose jersey sold out today? The one and only Sophie Cunningham, now known as the Enforcer, and Caitlin Clark's unofficial bodyguard. Sophie defended the face of women's basketball, and America loved her for it. Honestly, I've never seen Twitter agree on something this much. But last night, they did. And let's be real, after that headlock, you probably realized you don't want to fight Sophie Cunningham either. In a sequence that's already being replayed and dissected thousands of times, Sophie stepped up. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't wild. It was firm, physical, defiant. A message, not just to the opposing team, but to the refs who refuse to protect the players. The free shots are done. We're not getting punked anymore. We're not letting this slide. She didn't start the fight. She just finished the one everyone else had been ignoring. And honestly, bro, that was honorable. What she did for Caitlin. What did Rachel Demita say? What did Rachel say about all this? She said, if the refs aren't going to do their job, then the players are going to have to be the enforcers themselves. And she was right. This game was chippy from the very beginning, and the officials, they completely failed to take control. They didn't do their job.
Sheldon? Getting hit left and right. The immediate aftermath was digital chaos, an explosion of online outrage. Clips of the incident, completely stripped of context, started going viral all over social media. The narrative was simple, sensational, and damaging. Sophie Cunningham is a dirty player, a reckless enforcer who lost control and attacked another athlete. That's how it was being framed. The outrage machine went into full overdrive. Rival fans, hot take commentators, and Twitter warriors were all in on it. It didn't take long before a petition started circulating, demanding that Sophie face real consequences, fines, suspensions, even being banned from the WNBA altogether. And honestly, I don't get how Sophie Cunningham doesn't have 1 million followers by now. I've never really had an opinion on the NBA or WNBA, just never cared enough to watch. It always felt boring. But ever since Caitlin Clark entered the league, things got interesting. And now, with Sophie Cunningham, this combo, Clark and Sophie, it's what makes the WNBA worth watching. She doesn't play about her teammates. She stands on business. I even heard she's a black belt. So what are you gonna do about it? Exactly. You go, girl. Everyone should be following Sophie. Hopefully one day I'll get to see them play live. And look, this wasn't just some random Twitter drama. It became a coordinated backlash. Thousands of people signing that petition, calling for punishment like Sophie had personally insulted the game. In the ruthless court of public opinion, she was tried, convicted, and sentenced in a matter of hours. Labeled the villain, the hothead, the symbol of everything wrong with the game. But here's the truth. It was all part of the game. The Fever and Caitlin Clark were getting checked all game long. They were getting punked all game. The refs let the physical play go unchecked, over and over and over again. And eventually,
Sophie Cunningham had enough. Yep, Sophie had enough. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We needed someone like this. Someone to say, you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm stepping up. She didn't wait for help. She became the help. She drew the line. She stood up. Because this team,
They're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to be treated like the little sister anymore, like the little brother anymore. No, we're going to be the ones who say, you know what? We're not here to start the fight, but we damn sure will finish it. While the internet was sharpening its pitchforks, demanding a tearful apology and calling for her cancellation, Sophie Cunningham logged on with a shrug. No carefully scripted PR statement, no hiding in silence, waiting for the drama to die down. Her first public response to the storm? A simple shrug emoji posted to her socials, unbothered, unapologetic, and then she did something wild, something so bold, so confidently defiant, it completely broke the cancel culture playbook. She found the actual petition calling for her to be banned from the league, the same one thousands had signed, and she, quote, tweeted it. No long defense, no emotional breakdown, no explanation, just a link to the team's merch store and a message proudly pointing out that her jersey completely sold out. It was a digital mic drop, a masterclass in flipping outrage into momentum. Sophie Cunningham stood on business, bro. She stood on business for her teammate, her friend, Caitlin Clark, and what she did, that was honorable. I don't care what anyone says, I will forever stand by that moment. I'm sorry, bro, but I have to say it again. That was honorable. And what happened next? Nobody could have predicted it. The narrative didn't just pause, it flipped completely. Fans saw her response not as cocky or disrespectful, but as unshakable strength. They saw a player who refused to bow down to the pressure of the online mob. And instead of hating her, people responded with something else entirely. Their wallets. Her jersey became the #1 seller across the league. Not just for a week, not just for the hype. Her jersey outsold Caitlin Clark's, the most popular player in the entire WNBA. That's when people finally saw the full picture. Sophie hadn't acted out of aggression or spite. She acted out of loyalty. Fierce, unwavering loyalty. The same crowd that had tried to cancel her just days earlier, they were now calling her a hero. The villain narrative? It collapsed. In its place came new titles. The Enforcer, Caitlin Clark's bodyguard, an icon who stood on business when no one else would. Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of Sophie Cunningham. Her jersey? The #1 selling jersey in the entire WNBA. Sold out. So why does that matter? Because Sophie's vindication didn't just come from fans, it came from the league itself, revealing a dark hypocrisy at the center of the entire controversy. Days after the game, when public opinion had already swung in her